Welcome back to 365 Unlimited. Every time we start an episode, there's always something hilarious going on that we decide to laugh for absolutely no reason. But we are back with another episode. Probably, our favorite episode that we get to do each year. Having the time to envision a great NFL season, in July and August, and get our hopes up for our favorite teams. All the hope is there for what's going to happen in the NFL season. Obviously, a lot of teams get their hopes and dreams diminished, broken. As a fan, your spirit is shattered, but ultimately at the end, there becomes one winner. And this coming weekend on Sunday at 5:30, we get to witness Super Bowl 59 with the Kansas City Chiefs back in the Super Bowl for the third year in a row, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. This is obviously going to be a massive game, having these two teams back in the Super Bowl. They played against each other in 2023. Was a very, very good football game.
Back and forth, yeah.
Back and forth. The score ended up.
The Eagles got robbed.
They did. But the final ended up 38-35, obviously with the Chiefs coming out on top. Now trying to three-peat, something we have not seen, something that is completely unheard of within the NFL. So what we are witnessing right now as football fans is clearly history. There is the opportunity for that to unfold in front of our eyes this weekend. But, guys, just initial thoughts on this game. As football fans, we sit here and we watch the entire NFL season, kind of get a gauge on what teams are going to have the chance to get to this height, to this level. And I think we knew these teams had that opportunity. So just initial thoughts on both of these teams.
Yeah, go ahead,
Ruckman.
All right,
Take it away.
No, I think it's interesting. Like Bryce just mentioned 2 years ago in the previous Super Bowl, pound for pound, knockout punches back and forth. It was a really good game. I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think points might be at a premium, I think, so to speak, in some of this matchup with both the defenses that I think are both really improved from the last time they played each other 2 years ago. But it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, this is history, boys. I mean, we're already looking at the dynastic run that the Patriots were on, and now that these boys are on with the Chiefs, and then for them to be in their own company potentially with 3 in a row, regardless of what happened with the games, the refs, whatever you want to equate, you just can't cheat the history that's involved in this matter with this game coming up this week. That's kind of what my biggest takeaway is as a sports fan. Like, if they go on to win this is going to be something that's going to be talked about when we have kids that are little, like in 15, 20, 30 years. Like when everybody grows up, they're going to talk about Pat Mahomes. They already are with the legacy that he's built, but just the whole core group there, it's so similar of how the Patriots way with Robert Kraft down to Bill Belichick, with all their coordinators, their players, the guys that were key cornerstone pieces to their franchise, and their runs were the same way that the Chiefs have had with people on the secondary up front, Chris Jones, different people on the offensive side of it, people coming back like Kareem Hunt now, the offensive core, like not big stud guys in different positions, but people that have been Chiefs or had good NFL careers before they've came in and just wanted to win and bought into the Chiefs winning ways of this. Can the Eagles knock them off the high horse here with Sirianni and the boys, Saquon's historic run? Like, it's going to be two clashes of two really good football teams. And I think looking back on it, maybe a little bit with some of the offensive inconsistencies with Jalen Hurts, but like these two have probably been the best two teams almost from start to finish, outside of maybe the Lions with their offensive run at times. But from start to finish, being healthy, injuries across the board with all three phases of the football, like these are the best two teams we have this week, and I'm fired up.
I feel like this went kind of how everyone figured it would go. I think Buffalo got robbed. I think there was many plays where, I mean, it's hard to say it's a defining moment. But
Josh Allen still had a chance to win that game. Didn't do it.
He got the first, I think. Clear is dead.
Yeah.
I mean, and he had a nice dot. Was it Kincaid that dropped it?
Yeah, but that last drive, he had a chance to still go do it. I mean, obviously, he could have caught that ball there. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. He'd even give him there, but still, he had a drive to go do it. Like in my opinion,
there was that, and earlier in the game where there was that interception or whatever, with two guys went up, the ball clearly hit the ground.
That was interesting.
There's just small things like that.
Yeah, the first down was bad. First down, I think,
clearly was a first down. You saw one ref mark it. The other one didn't.
He didn't just mark it. He had it marked by a whole
yard almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, we kind of knew that this was going to happen, I think. I mean, we kind of all had our, we want Detroit or we want Buffalo, but like no one's surprised that Kansas City's there. So I like the matchup that they have with Philly. I think if Philly can run the ball and not be in a shootout, they're going to win.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's just with the NFL and how I've seen it this year, it's the noise, it's the three-peat, it's the Mahomes, it's the Kelsey, it's the Taylor Swift thing. Like for some reason, I just feel like it is meant to be the three-peat, and it would be cool. Like I'm not completely hating, because a three-peat would be historical, but I think if Kansas City wins, it's going to be tainted by the refs this year. Like unfortunately, but I think it's warranted in some aspects. So, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. Ticket sales are down like 40%, I think, this year because people don't want to see Kansas City there, which like it's kind of how it was with the Patriots era. Like,
I don't know. We're getting to a point now where it's like fans, I think, expect this to happen. Like where we understand, like, and it's not changing. We discussed this in our last episode. Like, if Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously with Andy Reid at the helm right now, where they go next at head coach, we'll see when that day comes. But ultimately, with Mahomes at the helm, playing the quarterback position, you're going to attract players, especially veteran players that want a chance at a Super Bowl.
Man.
I mean, we're witnessing. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins hasn't had this opportunity ever in his career. So guys like that are at the back end of their career having an opportunity to come over to KC to get a ring, it is special, but like that is, in a sense, as a fan, that is the annoying part, that it's like, okay, this is going to keep happening because you're going to have guys that are at the back end of their career, veteran players, haven't had the opportunity. They're going to come over to Kansas City when that chance arises just because of the fact Kansas City is that competitive year in and year out.
And I'm not completely hating Kansas City.
No, but they deserve all the respect in the world.
It's the same noise that came out when the Patriots were on the run.
Yes.
Right. The Deflategate, the Spygate stuff. Like there were so many other things where there's some factors in there that were facts. Just like Josh Allen had the first down here, a lot of different things throughout some of the different games. I think that's some of the noise though that comes with success. Like people 100%. Are going to have their things to say with it, in my opinion. But it's going to be interesting because the Eagles have a legit chance to win this damn football game.
Well, people hate Tom Brady. They hate LeBron. They hated Jordan. So it's part of being great, but I think
people just like to see winners. They like to.
Well, the Taylor Swift's a whole added thing that's just adds for more controversy with it, albeit if they like it or not. It just brings more attention to the spotlight. But damn, it's been a good luck charm for the boys.
NFL's bringing in billions of dollars with adding Taylor Swift. So like, it's one of those things that I mean, some of it's obvious, like with some of the play calls that we've seen this year with Kansas City, going back to the Super Bowl against Philly with that pass interference at the end that, was questionable at best. So I think Philly's got a real good chance, but, it is Kansas City and you got to beat them. So we'll see.
So before we get into, I want to separate these teams. Let's talk about keys to victory for the Eagles, talk about keys to victory for the Chiefs. But before we do, just looking back at last night, I was scrolling through, Twitter, looking at obviously preview stuff for this matchup, trying to get a sense on, what the Eagles could do to win this game. And I happened to stumble upon, it came out, I believe it was last night or a day or two ago. Pat Riley had trademarked the three-peat. You guys see that? Did you happen to see that?
Yeah.
So the Chiefs, whether it was the Chiefs and Pat Riley or the NFL and Pat Riley, reached an agreement to where, let me just read it. They'll be able to use the phrase. Obviously, Pat Riley's incredibly smart for having that trademark because now he's going to get some money out of it, which is very interesting. But yeah, so they reached an agreement to be able to use the phrase when they win. Obviously, probably be plastered on T-shirts and stuff like that. You'll see it all across the NFL. And fans purchasing, but it is pretty interesting just to note, like with this stuff in the media that comes out leading up to the game, like I understand this is where people kind of get that idea like, oh, the NFL's fixed. Like we're already talking about, we're already talking about an agreement between the NFL and Pat Riley on a trademark thing. Like, why wouldn't this just come out after the game? But all of these things leak and build up. And at the end of the day, I know Carter's feelings on the NFL and with the Chiefs and the refs and everything, but to me, there's just so many variables that when it comes down to the NFL and refs, yes, they're going to mess up, but at the end of the day, too, like these refs are not even full-time employees of the National Football League. Like this is like a seasonal job for these guys.
It's a human element, yeah.
Yes,
There's some part of it.
And there's too many variables, in my opinion, for it to be like, okay, this team is guaranteed to win. I just don't think that's the case. I think Philly does have a legitimate chance to go in and win this football game. However,
I don't think it's fixed in the way that you're thinking it's fixed. Like, there's this pocket of society that knows the score.
yeah.
Like, it's small things that interfere with the game. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Just like with the people that got caught, like, shaving points, players and stuff. It's small, nuanced things. It's not like someone misses a game-winning layup, right?
Yeah.
It's small things like that where the refs, do some things at crucial times, like in the Super Bowl against Philly. That's a crucial call. You know what I mean?
It is, but that's like Gannon, so that's the human element. Like,
I mean,
it's bang bang stuff when it comes down to it as fans on the
Saints
couch.
Rams back in the day. I mean, it's
that's not bang bang.
But we react to it that way when we're sitting and watching.
But
it
now
on
some of
from
this
the
could be
couch.
prevented with technology and still having technology with Josh Allen last week picking up a first down. Like there's still that element that can be
Yes.
fixed because
I
it
mean,
should
the
have
pass
been.
interference thing, they tried changing that where you could challenge it.
That was bad. I mean,
that was bad. But
that's never going to work because there's still a human element to that call.
Exactly.
There's certain calls like when we talk about the what's the phrase they've been using for it this year where they've been able to have technology reverse calls, replay assist. It has been incredibly beneficial for yard marking and one thing I do hope they implement next year for it is, let's review replay assist because they can replay these plays are bang bang, but as soon as the play happens, we can move on to the next play. But the replay assist is able to have that fixed, and you don't have to have the ref stop the game. You know what I'm saying? Like replay assist will come in through the mics, tell the refs like, hey, this ain't a penalty. And I think that's something like I want to see with pass rushers. I want to see these quarterbacks roughing the passer calls, hands to the face with these quarterbacks that wasn't called a lot this year, missed face mask calls, like stuff like that needs to be caught up on. Like that's a 15-yard penalty, bang, bang. Replay assist, though, I will give the NFL credit because that was a big implementation into the game this year that I do think was incredibly beneficial. Now I just want to see it expanded to more important plays. Like, you know what I'm saying? In a sense, like expand that on to more important calls. But let's dive in. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles to start. And I'll give you guys my 3 keys to the game on how I think Philly can win this football game. I know Carter's kind of already touched on it, and Gannon has alluded to it in a sense as well. I mean, I think any NFL fan realizes if Philadelphia is going to win this football game, it's going to have to come from the ground game. Saquon Barkley, obviously coming off a year where he surpassed 2,000 rushing yards, probably would have, could have, should have broke the record if he would have been able to participate in the last regular season
but
game.
Then there would have been crap about
17 games. I think it evens out.
Yeah. Either way, when we talk
and
about
it was against New York.
Yeah. In a sense. But we talk about Philly's rushing attack. If Saquon Barkley is able to get going early in this football game, it could be a struggle for the Chiefs. Anticipation for this game with me, I do believe it will be lower scoring. I believe the over-under is set on 49, I want to say.
That or 49.5.
49.5, and that'll obviously shift leading up to game time. And the Chiefs are favored minus 1.5 points. I do think if Saquon gets going early, it will be tough sledding for the Chiefs just because when you have a rushing attack and your pass game with the Eagles struggles a little bit with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, they have to rely on this ground game to even remotely be successful. So if the Chiefs can hinder that, it might be tough sledding for the Eagles. But I got one key down is rushing attack for the Eagles. My second key to victory with the Eagles is their D-line presence. When we talk about their front group going up against the Kansas City offensive line, the Philadelphia Eagles front is disgusting. And they've had incredibly better, much better linebacking play this season as well, with Zach Bond coming in being an all-pro caliber player at the linebacking position. It has helped these defensive linemen understand, like, hey, we can limit this run game, but we got linebackers that can drop into coverage, but they can also play that run game as well. And it's been incredibly beneficial for Vic Fangio's defense to have great linebacking play, but incredible defensive line play. If the Eagles' defensive line can be disruptive, it might be tough for Patrick Mahomes to remain in that pocket.
Yeah.
Third key I got for the Eagles is I think Coach Nick Sirianni is going to have to play a big factor in this game when it comes to being aggressive on Kansas City's side of the football field. Now, when we see 4th and 4, we see 4th and 3, we see 4th and 1, we obviously know what the Eagles are going with. The tush-push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. That's what we can anticipate to see from Philly. But I'm more intrigued to see what does Sirianni, Kellen Moore dial up when it's 4th and 4, 4th and 3, you're on Kansas City's side driving. Do you limit yourself by kicking that field goal, or do you remain aggressive knowing and understanding Patrick Mahomes is on the other side of the field and can score points in a hurry? So I think when it comes down to the Eagles winning this game, it's going to come down to their rushing attack, their defensive line presence, disrupting Patrick Mahomes, and being aggressive on Kansas City's side of the football field.
Yeah. I think it's good stuff right there. I think I'm already kind of equating for Saquon to kind of get his yards. I know Spag's going to have a good game plan that way, but I'm turning the exact opposite, kind of what you were saying when we know the in and out presence of Jalen Hurts in that pass game. I think that's one of my big first keys for the Eagles to have a big say in this. If you look at the Kansas City defense, that's their worst link of their defense. They're like 18th in the league, I'm pretty sure, on pass defense over across the whole year. So if there's any bit of a chance for Jalen Hurts to have a chance in this game to help out Saquon, because Saquon's going to be there, but they're going to have to explosive plays down the field a little bit different that way to kind of elude some of this, to open up some holes, in my opinion, for Saquon at the end of the day. Jalen Hurts is going to have to step up. They got the weapons to do it. Now, is he going to be able to get the ball to him? We're going to have to see in this. But I think Jalen Hurts now has this opportunity, been in the national title game multiple times, the Super Bowl, lost to these guys. It's time for Jalen Hurts more so to show up, because I know Saquon's going to get his yards. Saquon's going to have an off day and still going to run for 100 yards, and is probably going to have a long touchdown or get in the end zone at some point in some way, shape, form, or another. At the end of the day, if Jalen Hurts can show up, be big against the Kansas City secondary, I think they have a really good chance to win this football game. And then the Philadelphia secondary is kind of my second key point of this. They're going to have some turnovers. They have to create turnovers. Number 1 or 2, I think, in scoring defense this year. So they have to do something to turn the ball over against Pat Mahomes. They don't beat themselves, so they're going to have to force something to kind of get those guys in some scenarios there and create turnovers at the end of the day, because they have ball hawks with the younger guys, older guys like Darius Slay back there. They have the young rookies, Mitchell and DeJean. They have playmakers out there. Will they go make some things happen here and kind of help it out that way? Because if they can do that and give Philadelphia the ball more times than not to control that game clock, and they scored above 30 points a game, they're going to have a chance. Kansas City's done it twice this whole year. For them to have a big game, it's going to take all hands on deck for Kansas City in my aspect. So if Philadelphia can get things going and have the turnovers and get the offensive side going, they have a legit chance in this football game. Now, I think Jalen Hurts, again, is going to be the key. And my third point is defensive line, like Bryce was talking about. If Pat Mahomes gets pressured, he's going to have a chance to make some mistakes. He gets out. He's a good thrower on the run. But again, you're going to be more prone and susceptible to turnovers at the end of the day when you're throwing on a run. It's just not the same Pat Mahomes when he can sit there all day and let Travis Kelce run with his head cut off down the middle of the field. That's not going to be able to happen if Jalen Carter and the boys can get home for the Eagles, in my opinion. So a lot of it's going to come down to their defense, which is two clashing of the heads with Kansas City having a top 10 defenses in their own right. But can Jalen Hurts pass the ball, some explosive plays to their playmakers? I think A.J. Brown's a big guy to watch for in this game. Vontae Smith gets his, but a physical presence, A.J. Brown down the field, I think he's going to have a big chance to make factors in this game at the end of the day. And the secondary and defensive line, I mean, those two position groups are going to be big, creating chaos, turnovers, and pressure against Pat Mahomes. They got to do it to win it.
Yeah, I think you can't get into Philly can't get into a track meet with Kansas City.
Can Kansas City get in a track meet is the question.
I think they can. I don't think you want them in that position. If it's going back and forth, Kansas City's going to win. I think Philly needs to chew the clock. The time of possession is going to be huge for Philly, I think. And if it comes down to last couple minutes in the fourth quarter, Kansas City's going to win. That's what I think. It happens every year.
That's what we've seen.
Mahomes ends up with the ball at the end.
Yep.
And they go down, and you can't stop.
I just think this year's different. I don't think a track meet's prone for the Chiefs here. I just don't.
I think Kansas City can play any game really that they want, because you still have Mahomes, right? You still have Kelsey. You still got the head coach. You still got Spags on defense. I think Kansas City, no matter what. I mean, the Philly game against Washington, they're not going to put a 52 against Kansas City. You know what I mean? Or however much they put
It was
up.
like 55.
55 or something. So I really think you have to play your game, because I think Kansas City can play. They can switch it up, right? If they want to chew the clock and run the ball, they can do that. If they want to throw it, they can. So I really think that Kansas City can they can morph and do anything. So
just before, to your point, I want to say, I don't even think it's Kansas City that can morph and do anything. I think it's the key elements that you listed, right? It's Patrick Mahomes, it's Steve Spagnuolo, and it's Andy Reid. Those three key elements right there.
They play their game regardless of the game.
That's the scared point of NFL fans saying, hey, the Eagles can win this football game. Fans are scared to say it and scared in a way to talk about the Eagles in a positive way, due to the fact that Kansas City has those three elements that are incredibly disturbing for other NFL teams in all reality.
But Philly's roster is better, on paper. You know what I mean? I think. How is it not?
I think when you look at a Kansas City roster, though, yes, it's more veteran infested in a way, just due to the fact that they've brought in guys back like Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, but they do have the youth as well. Xavier Worthy at receiver has been great, and obviously, in my opinion, probably would have been a 1,000-yard receiver if Mahomes would have placed the ball a little bit better in certain instances with his burning speed throughout the regular season. But
that's not what they needed. Yeah.
And I would take Philly's offense 100 times over Kansas City. The key is Mahomes.
Yes, the key is Mahomes, but in a sense,
but you got Devontae Smith, you got AJ Brown, you got Saquon.
But who's the one throwing the ball to him?
I know you got Hurts, who's questionable.
So that's my opinion, is why I think it kind of I don't think it equals out, because I do think you're right in the sense when you say they're on paper. I do think Philly's more talented. They're more youthful. They're more energetic. They have guys that are young and up and coming. Yes, they got names, but I think when it doesn't equal out necessarily, but it does kind of alleviate some of the stresses of the Chiefs being a little less on paper, due to the fact that, yes, we got Mahomes. So if our weapons are Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, yes, they're older guys, but we have a guy quarterbacking that equals out with Hurts, Smith. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, I do think those guys are individually, yes, they're more talented.
And Kansas City's without Rice and has been without him.
Can we just think about Rashee Rice coming back and being with Worthy for years to come? That's disgusting.
And that's a huge loss for them.
It is. If he's in this game,
Pacheco for a while too,
and Kareem Hunt came in, immediately made an impact. That's just the thing with the being veteran filled like that, where guys want to come be a part of your football team. And when you got a guy like Kareem Hunt who knows the system, has been in Kansas City before going to Cleveland, they understand the Kansas City Chiefs way. And I want to talk about this because I think we can probably, you guys, good to move into the Chiefs' key to victories.
Yeah.
Good. All right. But I want to mention this because Radio Row, big thing in Super Bowl week, where everyone, the media, it's a media frenzy in all reality. And tons of players, active players, inactive players, retired guys, coaches, assistant coaches, guys from the college ranks, all come in. The media, it's just a big fiasco as far as media. And trying to pick apart and read and listen to different aspects of who's getting interviewed, one that kind of caught my eye just being a Cowboys fan, Peyton Hendershot, former tight end of the Cowboys, now with the Kansas City Chiefs. He kind of touched on the fact that the second he stepped into Kansas City, and I know it's different in Dallas, but he said the moment he got there, like it was immediately about football. And he said there hasn't been an instance where the goal hasn't been about winning a championship. The second he got there from being traded, that's the second NFL team he's ever been to, and immediately they have established that winning culture. And yes, it's due to the fact of guys like Andy Reid being your head coach, Patrick Mahomes being your leader, being the winner he is, Steve Spagnuolo being an assistant coach there. But that is something that we can't forget when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. As much as we don't think this three-peat has the chance to happen or we don't want to see it happen, this team is historically good, historically great. Like I said, we haven't seen this type of thing happen before. And just to hear that from Hendershot kind of reminded me like we don't see what happens behind closed doors. We don't understand the culture that these guys have created in Kansas City.
And it is in Kansas City and Dallas.
Oh, yeah, big difference. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because I think it's important to understand that these football teams that reach it to the largest game of the year, they are about winning football games first. And it's special to watch when you get to witness two teams that have had incredible seasons who have won 17 games. Like, it's a different type of NFL that we watch nowadays. It is incredibly different. Even from when us three were kids growing up, the NFL has transformed so much over the course of these last 10 to 15 years for us being NFL fans. But let's talk about the Chiefs. I'm going to get on a tangent here. Let's talk about the Chiefs.
Well, I think it's a really good point. I think you just listen to Andy Reid was on the Pat show last week, Pat McAfee, he was talking about being with Steve Spagnuolo and David Tobe, his special teams guy. They've been together since they were college. David Tobe and Steve Spagnuolo were college roommates when Andy Reid was a grad assistant at the same university. I'm drawing a blank of where they're at right now. But that's the camaraderie, the collectiveness, the togetherness of just the organizational push, the culture being built, and then having the rings already, having those many, already having three to show you guys how it's done. It's just easy for veterans, everybody else to come in. Peyton Hendershot, a young guy coming into a second year or second team in his career. It's prone to subception to be successful. Like, it's just so easy at the end of the day when you have people that have been together for 30, 40 years running a culture there. Everybody searches for it. It's hard to find.
It is. But keys to victory with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, we talk about Philadelphia Eagles, what they need to do. I think as fans and people who have watched the NFL throughout the year understand what it's going to take for both of these teams to hoist that Lombardi trophy at the end of the game. But with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think right away, I think I can list this as a key to victory and an advantage for Kansas City when I talk about quarterback play, right? And I think if Patrick Mahomes – he will outduel Jalen Hurts. That's just my opinion, and I think as fans we understand that that's probably going to happen. But when we talk about quarterback play, if Patrick Mahomes is comfortable in the pocket, the D-line is not able to do what we talked about earlier and be that force up front. If Patrick Mahomes has time in the pocket, he's able to sling the ball around, and Gannon kind of alluded to it in a sense as well. He's still just as dangerous when he's outside of the pocket as well. So if we can have a Mahomes game where he gets rattled in the pocket, he gets outside the pocket, but is still able to make those important throws, I think that is key for their pass game. And on top of kind of meshing that quarterback play into what I think is very important for the Chiefs is their intermediate pass game. I think if you're able to have guys come across the field, I think Hollywood Brown will play a very big factor in this football game across the middle of the field. Travis Kelce, quick routes, anything, just getting the ball out of Mahomes' hands quickly will be advantage Chiefs. The second key to victory I have with the Kansas City Chiefs is to just continue the trend that they had all regular season. They're clearly a second-half football team. Obviously, when it comes into the first half, they don't necessarily get rattled or get down too big, but what we've seen with the Chiefs is those improbable comeback wins, the game-winning field goals, all of those things where we, as fans watching from the couch, we think it has something to do with the refs, but we do have to give Kansas City a little bit of credit as a football team that they are the nitty-gritty type of team that is going to pull out those those close games. And like Carter mentioned, if it is a very close game, we can see Kansas City winning that. So if the Chiefs come out and they continue that trend of being a second-half football team, they're probably going to come out on top. And the last one I have is, we talked about his name, Coach Spagnuolo. I have him, obviously, I think in a duel, when it's a duel against him and Kellen Moore, advantage Chiefs right there. Steve Spagnuolo, I think, is going to give Kellen Moore fits when it comes to out-scheming him, putting pressure on Jalen Hurts, and that's why I think the Eagles really have to hope that that run game is on, because if it's not, I do think Coach Spagnuolo might give Jalen Hurts a few nightmares.
Yeah. I think going back to a little bit kind of what Carter was talking about earlier with the Chiefs being able to play any type of game to win this year, I think a lot of the games that they have won, majority all of them have been ugly, kind of grinded out type of sort of performances. It's nothing's been really clean cut. They scored 30 points 2 times this year. Like it's not just up and down track meet style game. If Saquon Barkley gets out and runs the ball and they score a lot of points, that is not prone for good success, in my opinion, with these guys. So it'll be interesting to see, can Pat Mahomes get the play style going? Can they start scoring the ball more at a higher rate? Because I think 30 points plus is going to have to win this football game, in my opinion, at the end of the day. The Eagles are going to get their points regardless if Jalen Hurts kind of performs or not. Saquon's going to kind of carry those guys. Second point is Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. Their guys' camaraderie, the way that they play call, the way that they game plan. Obviously, Andy Reid's still calling the plays. Matt Nagy has a big role with that offense also. But you just saw the last drive when they had to go clinch and run out the clock last week. They don't do too much. They get the ball out to their guys. Everybody's ready to catch the ball. On the fourth down, was it the third or fourth down play to Samaje Perine? 4 guys out. They all went wide up the field. Just a little dump off to Perine out of the backfield. Go get your play, pick up the first down, win the football game. Like, it's just, they don't do too much. Everybody's in the right position. Those guys having their game plan, their game calling. Obviously, Mahomes is making the plays, but these 2 guys getting them set up on the offensive schemes, it's just second to none with what they do and how they methodically go down the field. But I think they also are going to have to flip that play calling and get a little bit more back and forth and score some points here and take some bigger shots down the field, a.k.a. Travis Kelce's going to be wide open, regardless if you game plan for him or not. He finds his holes. He gets his coverages. He gets his yards at the end of the day. And then I think it's going to be the run D for the Kansas City Chiefs is my third factor at the end of the day. They have to affect Saquon Barkley in some capacity in this game. If you allow him to run for 200-plus yards with his big explosive plays, taking a 50-yard touchdown to the house, you cannot do this and expect yourself to win the football game, in my opinion. You have to get pressure. You have to get in the backfield. You have to do a little bit there. And then again, when you effectively have a good rush D that's going to get home, it's going to get Jalen Hurts rattled, making him throw on the run, which is exactly what you want, which is going to be turnover-prone city again, with Jalen Hurts doing all those little things, in my opinion. So those are kind of the 3 keys that I got for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Before Carter goes, I want to just piggyback off of what Gannon said right there. And Samaje Perine, that's another veteran, right? We talked about
10 different guys catching the football for him, realistically.
And Perine being a guy who gets interviewed after the championship game, the conference championship game, and pretty much just says he's happy to be there, right? Like, he's trying to help that team win. And I think that adds to our points of, like, Kansas City being that veteran, having the influx of veterans that they have on that team, with it meshes well with the young guys, and I think it translates to success.
So one of the first ones, I think, for Kansas City, the refs. It's a big key to victory right there.
We all knew that was coming.
So that's number 1, obviously, for them, is get the calls when it matter. I think realistically, though, I think if they can get a lead, I think that's a big key for Kansas City. Because everything you guys said, I agree with.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something else that you guys didn't say that's a key. I think that's a big key, is getting out and scoring and kind of getting that lead early. Because you mentioned they're a second-half team. If they can get a jump, in the first half, because I think you don't want Philly to be able to run the ball effectively. And if you get down, Philly can still run the ball because Saquon can break a 60-yard touchdown anytime. But if you get out in front of them and make them throw the ball and kind of make Jalen Hurts make good throws and kind of, go down the field and make big plays, I think that's where Kansas City has sort of a upper hand. So if you can get out in front and make Philly change up their game plan because everyone knows it's going to be we need to run the ball.
Yeah.
So that's not like you don't have to be a genius to understand that that's what Philly's main goal is going to be is to run the ball. But yeah, I think if Kansas City can get out in front and sort of make Philly play from behind, that will take Saquon out a little bit because you're not kind of ground and pound, okay, we got a lead or hey, it's tied, we can take our time. Like when Kansas City gets up on you, and especially when it gets closer to the end of the game, like you have got to do what you do best as Philly, which is run the ball. And if you take them out of that and make Hurts make tough throws and big plays, I think Kansas City has a good chance if they can make Philly do that.
Agreed. So let's wrap this episode up. Super Bowl 59 with our prediction, team winning, score, Super Bowl MVP. Gannon, I'll let you rock with it first.
Ooh, this is interesting. It's an interesting dynamic here. I think I could see there's both scenarios where I could see this game turning out. I think laying it out on the line before I do it. I think the two picks of mine are either going to be Patrick Mahomes or Saquon Barkley to be Super Bowl MVPs.
Yeah.
Whatever team wins out of those two, I think that's a pretty surefire of who's going to be the MVP pick. Obviously, being the betting pick, being a quarterback, but on the Eagles side, if they win it, I just don't see Jalen Hurts outperforming Saquon Barkley if the Eagles are to pull this one out at the end of the day. But I'm going to be having history being made here with a three-peat happening with the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. It's just Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day here. I'm kind of rooting for it. I know there's like a public eye with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's something that's never been done. I want to witness it. I want to be the first to see it. I kind of want to have that kind of adage being a sports fan at the end of the day. I just think Patrick Mahomes is not going to do too much, and they play to their strengths more so than playing out of their strengths. And I think that's the key to victory with this. There's not going to be a butterfly effect, nerves, none of that. The Eagles were here 2 years ago. A lot of the same players, they've been there, done that. Same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think when you've done this 3 times and trying to make it 4 now, it makes it so much easier. And a three-peat 4 times total with the Chiefs, it's hard to go against them with their coaching success, with the player success, with the organization success, the backing, the community, the Kansas City way, Red Kingdom. At the end of the day, I'm just going Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's going to be 35-31. I think it's going to be a little bit different score here. I'm going to go with those guys. I think it's going to be a good game back and forth. But like Carter says, I think the Chiefs have to get out to a fast start here. I think that's going to be a big thing to transcend them. Then Philly's not going to be able to run the ball with Saquon as much early on because they're going to be having to catch up on the scoreboard, so to speak, a little bit. So that's my pick.
I'm taking Philly for reasons that I kind of talked about. I'll explain. I think, first off, I think it's going to be Philly 34-24. I think it's going to be a kind of a higher scoring game. And I don't think it's going to be a close game in that sense because, like I said, if it's in a field goal range, like Kansas City's going to win that. So that's why I think it's going to be more of a 7 to 10 point spread for Philly because I think if they can get like that, Kansas City's not going to be able to win. But if it's like a 3, Philly's up by 3 with 3 minutes left, you can write it home. Kansas City's going to win. I'm going to take Jalen Hurts for MVP. I think he is going to show up. I think he's going to have to. You can't just run the ball the whole time. Like, he's going to have to make big plays. Everyone knows Saquon's going to be getting the ball. Now, does that really matter? It probably not. Like, 100 yards is a bad day, right?
Yeah.
No touchdowns maybe, right, for Saquon. I could see it being opposite of what people think, where it's just like Saquon's going to have like 3 touchdowns and 200 yards. Like, I think Kansas City's main priority is to stop Saquon and let Jalen Hurts beat you. And so I think if Philly plays right, I think Jalen Hurts can have a good game and really deal the football. And I'm thinking Jalen Hurts is going to be MVP.
Okay.
Philly, baby, let's go.
I like it, and before I give my perspective, I do think that probably is Spag's game plan as far as, let's limit Saquon and put pressure on Hurts, but let's also look at it from another perspective. what if it's we already know Saquon's going to have a game. Let's just put pressure on Hurts regardless and see what happens.
I'm sure they will, but
yeah, Spags makes
because
sense.
I think you can limit Saquon, but you can't stop Saquon. So I think it's something because they have the change of pace, right? It's Saquon. They got Gainwell that can come in there as well, out of the backfield as a passing back. So I do think there is that type of notion where, as a defensive coordinator, you're kind of like, well, we can try and limit Saquon. We're not going to stop him. I mean, I'm sure those words have kind of been uttered in the Kansas City operation this week, understanding like we're going to do everything we can to limit him. But I think in turn, let's simply worry about the fact that if we force Jalen Hurts to throw the football and be uncomfortable in that pocket, that's where I think we get that Spags and Kellen Moore chess piece type game where it's dialing up pressures, getting guys off the edge. And that's where I want to leave a sneaky name out there for Super Bowl MVP because I am rolling with the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. I'm going to go with the score 27-23. I do think it will be not high scoring, but that middle echelon type game where it's not too high of a score, but kind of back end of the game, a couple of points get scored near the wrap up. But 27-23, Kansas City Chiefs. My Super Bowl pick, Patrick Mahomes as the MVP. But a name to watch is George Karlaftis. I do think he is a guy that you have to keep an eye on when you're the Philadelphia Eagles. He will be screaming off the edge. And I'm not saying he has that chance to get Super Bowl MVP because, like, when we talk about it, how often does it really happen where the defensive guys get named MVP? It's typically your guys who are flashing, your energy guys, your superstar guys on offense that are making plays, right? It sucks, but George Karlaftis is a name to keep an eye on. In this game, I do think he can cause some havoc on Jalen Hurts. And like we talked about, if they are dialing up pressure to force Hurts to throw the football, Karlaftis is the number one guy who's going to be chasing after Hurts. But all in all, I think we're all kind of on the same page as far as what we think could happen with this game, besides Buden's kind of rolling with the Eagles here at the end. But
I can see it 100%.
100%. I think this game, truthfully,
I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City won.
Yeah. And none of us would. But I
just think it's too obvious, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, when you've done it back-to-back years, of course it's going to be obvious.
Well, just like everything is lining up. Like it's going to be too – I don't know. I just
remember the offseason talking about it. Like, can they really do this? Like, are they really going to get back to the Super Bowl? Like, not even talking about are they going to three-peat. It was just a matter of can they get back there again?
Do you think if Travis Kelce retires, let's say they win and Travis Kelce retires, do you think this Chiefs team minus Kelce could still get here?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think he's done, though.
I don't think Kelce retires. You know who I do think retires? DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins.
If he wins, probably.
I just think
I could see that.
A couple veterans. I mean, if you're Hopkins, you've done everything in your career, right? Where you've been successful. You were the Texans. You're one of their best receivers in franchise history. You kind of get traded for pennies, shipped off to Tennessee for what?
Arizona.
We go to Arizona, then get shipped off to Tennessee. So you've been with two bad franchises for the last however long of your career, and you finally get to a team who has a chance to win it.
Yeah, or they sign him back for $2 million on a veteran contract.
Could easily. I mean, I just see like guys like him, P. Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Like this is their moment. Like, let's go get a bowl. Let's figure it out, and then we'll be done. And I don't think Kelce's done either.
No.
You know how bad them boys are going to be like, hey, we just won 3 in a row. Why not 4?
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's out.
Could you imagine? We're talking about a 3-peat. Imagine a 4-peat. Imagine. It's just insane what this team has been capable of doing. You're going to have
that. I mean, you had that. With New England, you had not a 4-peat, but you have where they win 1 or 2, and then they don't for a year, and then they're back, and then
they're back. Yeah, that's what'll happen. That's
the other weird thing of the NFL. Like they don't have that guy. Like you always had Peyton Manning and first Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Like we haven't had that with Mahomes. I feel like you could
So-
throw in,
But we
Lamar.
have. It's just been on the AFC side of things is the
right,
problem.
but we still haven't had like
Yeah, I mean, but then
true
we might just see in
competition.
5 more years with a couple more bowls, and Patrick Mahomes is better. I mean, that's just
I'm saying you don't
that's
have
the course we're on
dynamic
right now.
Can we,
of
before we wrap this
You
up,
don't have the dynamic though of Brady versus Manning.
You might not, but that might also be because Mahomes is just better than Brady.
that's what I want to talk about real
I-
quick for 2 minutes because I know Carter. I'm interested to see what you think, but like, does this? Obviously, Brady beat him head to head twice in massive games. Obviously, took it to him in the Super Bowl too. But can Mahomes ever tag himself? I mean, obviously he won't say it, but
Yeah, he
Can-
could have 4. He could have 4 rings before he's 30 years old.
yes,
Like-
but because of the fact that
almost
Brady,
did too, though, didn't he?
No, they were later, weren't they?
but
I don't think
because
he
of
had.
this,
He's got 7 of them. So
True.
but with Brady having beat him twice, can Mahomes ever officially be tagged as the GOAT? Like, I feel like that. Obviously, if he
This
outperforms
3P
his
is going to be a
rings,
real good damn start.
that's what I'm saying. It's
I mean,
If not-
I think you can already make the argument
Yeah.
that Mahomes will be
Yeah.
the best. I just think it's
that's
hard.
insane. Like,
I
you
just
say
think
that
it's
out
hard.
loud,
I've said
mean,
this times
I just-
before on the pod. Yeah, it's not.
but it's just the fact that this guy hasn't even necessarily reached the prime. I mean, yes, he's
He hasn't even reached his 30th birthday, not till September.
I'm like,
it's
dude.
wild.
and we're
I mean,
tagging
the-
him as the best of all time.
The only thing that I could say, the only argument, like, is Tom Brady never had the guys that Mahomes has had. I mean, he had Gronk, but
I mean, I would argue, in a sense, it's pretty similar.
Similar. That's what I think.
he never had a Tyreek Hill. He never had one. I mean, Julian Edelman is probably his best receiver. He had
But
Randy
Tyreek
Moss
was there for what, 1 or
year.
2? Was Tyreek
2
there for
Super
1?
Bowls.
Was it 2? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you Tyreek for sure. Yeah,
You know,
But now if
I
he
mean,
goes and does back to back without Tyreek, I mean that's
right,
shooting
Yeah, I
Tyreek
think-
could end up back in Kansas City.
I
Probably
think
not,
it's
but he
always
could.
hard. Like,
If he goes a 3-peat and ends up getting 5 or 6 total, like yeah.
it's always hard though when you, like, once you have one guy that's established the GOAT, it's always hard for people to be like, oh, now we have a new one. Like, kind of like with
Yeah.
Jordan. Jordan, for a lot of people, it's the GOAT. There's nothing anybody could ever do.
It's because
People
it's a
feel this-
generational thing.
I think a
It's-
lot of it's going to be too if what his career stats and all that look like because he's still halfway there on playoff career wins compared to Tom
Yes.
Brady, which is a wild stat.
But to your point, Boodens, here's the difference between that MJ Bron debate and Brady Mahomes debate is with Jordan, he retired, and what we witnessed with LeBron didn't necessarily happen until he grew into his prime. Whereas that whole time, everyone's tagging MJ GOAT, 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 and that will never change because of the fact it took LeBron so long to reach those heights. And that's the difference is we went from
But I don't necessarily think that's true.
But I'm saying Brady retired and
It
was,
was literally
playing
back, yes.
and was battling, so we went from GOAT to freaking GOAT immediately. Like like Brady retired, beat Mahomes twice, but Mahomes has been in the midst of this conversation.
In 10 years, Tom Brady being talked about might not be the same.
That's what I'm saying because of how early it happened with Mahomes.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
I'm a LeBron guy. Like I'll tell you, I think he is the greatest of all time. But when I mentioned the generational thing, it's like if we are the witnesses of LeBron because of our age group, right? Like those
And
witnesses
we've
of
witnessed
Michael
Brady
Jordan.
too. I mean, not the early 2000s.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to. My
Yeah.
point. My point
He's
is
just saying back to back.
like
yeah.
we witnessed something that happened immediately.
Well,
It went
people argue
Brady
Kobe,
to
too,
Mahomes.
and that was kind of back to back, kind of right in the end of Jordan, like right when Jordan kind of was,
Yeah.
you know. So I don't know. I think Mahomes 100%
Especially as a 3-peat. I
conversation
mean, this
for the greatest of all time. I just think
Brady before he's 30 years old.
football's
Wow.
so different now too. You know, like I'm talking early Brady days. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
game has
It
changed
is.
so
Well,
much.
it's evolved immensely. The amount of contact you can put on a quarterback, the hits that they take. They don't take many hits. The transcendence
Especially
of the
shoot.
fact that like you mentioned Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Tom Brady, we don't have those quarterbacks. Those quarterbacks do not exist in the NFL anymore.
And it might be wrong to say, but would Tom Brady be as effective in today's game as he was 15, 20 years ago?
That's a whole other conversation. Yes, because I mean,
you could say, would Mahomes be like that in Brady's era, where you get a flag for touching him in the face mask, or you barely touch him?
I'm just talking talent wise. I 100% what you're saying with that factor. I'm just talking
escapability,
yeah, like Tom Brady's
pocket presence, running the ball, that was never a thing. Like the Peyton Mannings of the world, when they took off and run, it was a complete utter shock. Like now, that is.
But it's also a testament to the whole culture of what Bill Belichick and Andy Reid have built, because it's on Pat Mahomes, but it's also on the special teams. It's also on the defense. They're from top to bottom. 1 to 53 is unreal.
His longest career run was like 20 yards.
Yeah, and that's the point. That's what I'm saying. Could his athletic or lack of ability in today's game be effective? I don't know. That's what I was just saying.
But I think a lot of people say that could be a reason why Brady's the GOAT. It's because he didn't have all those attributes.
No, true.
You know what I mean? And still got it done. Still had those huge wins like in the Super Bowl, like against Atlanta. Things like that where...
Against Mahomes.
And against Mahomes where they dogged him pretty much.
I mean, if Mahomes goes a three-peat this year and then gets one more and has 5 with a three-peat minimum, you already have an argument there.
I just think my argument is solely based on the fact that, like Gannon said, it's not even his 30th birthday and the guy hasn't reached the prime of his career yet.
He's just in it.
His understanding of the NFL at an early age is outrageous. Like when he hits the 30, the 33, the 34-year-old mark,
championship every game.
Like his natural instincts, understanding, IQ, everything will be at the highest level that we've ever witnessed.
And this run right now is on a trajectory to be more than Brady. Like just the sheer every single year.
The trajectory aspect of it, 100%.
It's unreal. Yeah. It's when is it going to plateau, or if it is.
Yeah. So Brady had 2 Super Bowls before he was 30, and then I think he won one when he was 30.
Okay, so it'd be even at that sheer level, it'd still be 4-3 with Mahomes leading it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The path, the amount of postseason success, it's already been really good for Tom in his career, but Mahomes does this for another 3 to 4 more years. That's just barely getting him into his mid-30s. Like that's still with a lot of good football behind that.
Make the argument too, like Brady didn't come out starting. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have the time. I mean, Mahomes took 1 year off.
I mean,
Alex Smith was there.
Alex
Smith, right?
Well, Kansas City. But like Brady was a backup.
Drew
Bledsoe. So like Tom Brady also didn't get a jump ahead of time. It's hard with the time.
Oh yeah.
Those things because like argument for LeBron. Well, he was 18 when he got into the league. So there's always going to be those small nuances. I think even if they don't do the 3-peat, Mahomes is still going to be argument as to go. I mean.
The funny thing is,
generation is going to say Mahomes.
Yeah, and I think even the older generation might say it too. Like because I don't know if there's going to be a question mark behind this.
Yeah,
I don't
with the path it's on. It's just
anyone that watches football right now, I think understands where the trajectory of this could potentially head and what it's already at and what he's already done and already accomplished. Like I don't think there will be any questions asked. And I think even our age group, because we witnessed Brady, right? Like we witnessed a lot of his success as far as Super Bowl wins and the success he had in his career. I think when you mention LeBron being 18 years old and entering the league and tearing it up and taking the NBA by storm out of high school, it's a very fair point because when you assess players, and I've always done this and tried to have this argument with friends, probably you guys included, and when you take away, when we talk about a GOAT, right, as the greatest of all time, as an individual, as a player, their talent, their IQ, everything that they do as an individual. And yes, it obviously is set up with the team that they're on, but the team that they're on is what creates the longevity and the success that they have, right? The championships. Mm. Michael Jordan had success because of guys he had around him, correct? Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. They had guys. They had a great coach. And that's what we're seeing, and that's what we have to understand. LeBron takes the league by storm, played with a terrible Cavaliers team. Terrible. And we have to understand those circumstances when we judge players on being the greatest of all time, that they're all in different instances. They're in different teams with different coaches and different teammates, right? So solely basing it on championships, in my opinion, is always kind of hard to do. But in this instance, I mean, I don't want to get into the whole Bron MJ debate, but
it's going to be similar.
It will.
Similar debate.
Yeah. All in all, I mean, I think that was a good way to wrap up the episode.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the three-peat, the GOAT conversation in general, but I'm rolling with the Chiefs. Gannon's got the Chiefs. Carter's got the Eagles. We'll see who comes out on top. Just a little advice here.
S. You see the mayor?
Yeah, she's forget the hey, oh my God, what are we doing?
But as a lifelong NFL fan, anyone that makes it this far into the episode at the 55-minute mark, probably not a lot of you, but the ones that do, as a lifelong NFL fan, appreciate this. Appreciate each Super Bowl that comes by. Watch it with family, watch it with friends, have some good food, and just enjoy football as a whole, because when it comes to this is the biggest game of the year, and then we go months without it. So enjoy this game. We always appreciate talking about football. We'll continue to do so post-Super Bowl because the draft, free agency, it's all right around the corner. As we're recording this, the NFL honors are going on right now. Carter's boy Ben Johnson got AP Offensive Assistant of the Year. All in all, enjoy the game. Enjoy the game. We will see you guys next time.